Thanks, Ross. Hi everyone. I'm going to share today my experiences with moving from my usual role, which is making maps for other people, to a new role I found myself in, which is paying people to make a map for me. So if you were at NACIS last year, you may have heard about my project called Mapping May 4th, working with another geographer, Sarah Koopman, to map stories based on places mentioned in the 150 oral histories hosted by our university's library about the Kent State shooting. This event happened on our campus 50 years ago when the National Guard shot at students during a protest of the Vietnam War, killing 4 and wounding 9. Within the oral histories, Sarah and I found more than 300 stories connected to 100 places. And we wanted to map those, add photos, and allow users to upload their own photos, videos, or written stories about specific places in Kent in 1970. Our goal was to use these stories from various perspectives to promote dialogues about what happened and encourage reconciliation, particularly between town and gown. So while Sarah and I had an idea and data, we didn't have the technical skills to make this happen. We decided to hire a local company called Each and Every to help us. Each and Every has made lots of websites before, but they hadn't really made a map yet. They were, however, skilled designers and programmers, so we signed on to work with Nate, Hobie, and Alex to make our website, with thanks to the university and Ohio Humanities for funding it. To show them what we wanted, I made this mock-up of cat taking part in this. To show them what we wanted, I made this mock-up of Adobe XD, sorry. Pretty basic, but the idea was that you'd click on the map and be able to listen to a 2 to 3 minute audio clip of the oral history. We actually went through 2 rounds of design and programming with Each and Every, one in 2019, and that was the site that I showed at NACIS last year to make a prototype map where we used Google API, and then another in 2020 that was far more complex and used Mapbox. You can see the end result at mappingmay4.kent.edu, and I'm going to switch over to show you that website. So this is the Mapping May 4th website. It is, let's see, so when you come here, you get an about menu that tells you a little bit more about the events that happened on the Kent State campus. And then you've got, you can zoom in, you can turn on and off an aerial photo from 1970 to show kind of, if you are more familiar with the local landscape, you can show that. And then each of these is a different place on campus. This is the campus area. This is where the shootings occurred. And then over here is downtown. So just to zoom in and click on these, when you click on one of the dots on the map, you get the location, you get a photo from that time period, or more than one, hopefully, too. We're working on that. And then you get several stories from that location from different people. And we've got them color-coded by the different roles that each person had. So you can click on that, and then you can listen to that audio clip. We also have over here, Explore Tours and Stories. You can click on that, and you can see some recent comments from people who visited the site, featured stories if you don't feel like kind of browsing through those. And then you can see the tour. You can take a tour. It's location aware, so you can take a tour and go through each of these stops on the tour and listen to the stories that happened at each of these places. So that's one aspect of our site, but the part of our site that you can't see if you go to mappingmay4.kent.edu is the admin page. And that was something amazing that I did not expect at all when we signed on to do this. And it's so great to be, as much as, programming is great. And I used to do a little bit of it, but I'm way behind. Being able to go in here, and what you can do is you can click on it. You can see the comments that have been left by different visitors to the site, and you can approve them or not approve them. We're working on this, adding some learning resources. You can go in, you can edit these different places. Let me choose this one that has something going on. You can add more photos, you can tweak the latitude and longitude if you need to. You can edit the stories and attach them to a specific place. You can add in the audio, you can edit the audio and upload the audio. So somebody like me who has a little bit of tech knowledge, but not a lot, can go in and really manage the whole site from this portal and not have to go back to each and every and pay them more dollars to to get them to make some fixes. So let me just go back to my lessons. So I promised that we would have 5 lessons. So what did I learn from this? I'm going to go through each 5 of these. And the first one is, so you think you know design. So one of the realizations that I had was that I thought that I knew design since I teach cartography, but there's actually a whole other set of skills needed to do interactive web maps, especially those with lots of layers and of different content like ours. So just to give one example, when we added tours and the other resources on this, we needed to create the sidebar that you saw. And so the idea of having that sidebar was something we hadn't even thought of. And then how do we show people how to access all of that information? We started out with something that looked like the one on the left, which is very lightweight colored, but people could not see that. And then we added an arrow and people still said they couldn't see it. So we worked with Alex, our designer, to find one that people would immediately know by the big bold labeling and the word open, and an arrow that it was there. But that was something that I never thought about as a cartographer that usually does static maps, to think about all of these elements. So 2, we thought that the bottom idea for the map looked pretty snazzy. So that was the starting point that we had. But really, did we need to reinvent that wheel? We put the plus and minus signs on the right and separated them from the layer icon, which was a map, which looked cute, but no one knew what it meant. So we went back to the old favorites and put them all together. The layer icon now turns on and off the aerial photo, the plus and minus zoom in and out, and people needed to see something that they recognized. So generally, I would say don't reinvent the wheel, except when you actually do need to reinvent the wheel. So originally I thought that this would be something where we would do that kind of classic clustering, where if you zoomed out and you had a lot of points, they would cluster together. And so that there would be one, the image on the left is a mock-up of what each and every was planning on doing, because they thought this was a good idea too. So they were going to have the clusters and be in the bar area of town, and another in the center of downtown, another at the edge of campus. But when we tried to automate it, we found that the clusters didn't go where we wanted them to go to. So we just went back to dots. Another example is tours. The tours use the latitude and longitude of the locations to auto-generate directions using OpenStreetMap. This might work well for driving directions, but for short walking directions, it was a mess. So Hobie made us a edit directions button to allow us to manually edit the text describing what the user should do next as they went on the walking tour. This allowed us to really customize the tour to the city and campus landscape, keeping things like crosswalks in mind as we guided users through the tour. As a print cartographer, I only saw 2 options for labels on the map for the clickable sites, either no labels or yes labels. We wanted to provide context, but there was a lot of overlap in terms of the locations, and where particularly this is showing where the shootings took place on the left, or the stores downtown is another example. But Hobie, our programmer, came up with another idea, which was hoverable labels, which is great because these allow people to get context if they want that, but they don't clutter the page. So that was a great idea coming from each and every. And a final lesson is not about cartography, but about communication. So don't do what we did, which is we just sent emails back and forth saying, could you change this? I know we were silly. That was a bad idea. So you can see by some of the fun emails on the side there, like domain issues last time, and also some more fixes. And my personal favorite, oh, good grief. A month or two ago, each and every started using a program called As We Go, which has a streamlined task list and all sorts of other tools that we really could have used a year or two ago. So I highly recommend that, and having a task list rather than just sending emails back and forth. So to wrap up, for all of the good griefs, we actually really loved working together. It was great to get input from non-cartographers and to share my love of maps with them, and to come together with a common desire to build community in our small town. So shout out to each and every, as well as my collaborator, Sarah Koopman. And here's our contact info if you want to learn more, or feel free to ask questions through Slack. Thanks.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Jen. That was great stuff. I really enjoyed the bit about so you think you know design, because so many times I go into something and then realize like, wow, I thought I was a cartographer, but I realize I know nothing about this form of cartography. So we've got a couple minutes here, and we'll just keep a little eye on the chat here to see if any questions filter through. Cool. Well, feel free to put your questions in the Slack, and Jen can go through and check them out if she's got some time. So thank you again, Jen.